Hi, it's Robbie from Southern California, and this is that wonderful compost bin I set up on my deck, and I've got one in the bird garden, and I plan on building a whole bunch more. They're so cheap, you can get them for free, or I should say you can make them for free if you can find some totes in the trash. But you know what? You can get these totes for like $7, $8. You can use any size you want. And you can't get anything cheaper or better than that. And then you can put all your kitchen scraps in and you continue to build and continue to save it. But here's what I'm going to have to tell you. I started making the second video on the update on this, and I realized I had all these clips that I had saved for myself and I wanted to share with you. So I'll show you later another video on what's going on with it up to date now. But this is what's been going on for the past a little over a month now. Everything I put in there that you saw me in the original video build it, and you will have to go back and check that one out. It shows you how to make the holes. You want to collect the water because that's compost tea. You're making wonderful, fabulous compost in there at the same time. Look at the seeds. Any tomatoes, peppers, or whatever got in there. This is a tomato dried up. Look at them. They're growing. Do not let anybody tell you you cannot grow in breaking down matter, because that's what nature does. Oh, there's a little fruit fly up there jumping around. Fruit flies are what's going to get in here right now because I really don't have much earthworms. I would love to go under some of the flower pots and grab some, or just some soil, because usually there's eggs from earthworms under a flower pot sitting on the ground. But I haven't done that yet. Maybe a little bit got in there. But let me tell you something. This is the greatest setup you can do. It doesn't smell. If you think it smells, throw a little bit of soil on top. Buy yourself a nice bag of potting soil and sprinkle some on top. Don't load it in. But everything you saw me originally put in is gone. It's amazing. And it's going to continue to break down. Eventually, you won't see any twigs or sticks or leaves or anything left. It will just look like rich soil, like expensive rich compost you would buy at the store. But this is better, because this, you know exactly what's in it. You know where it came from because you're putting in your own leaves, your own wood chips, your own plants, your own kitchen scraps. Something you ate is going back to the soil that you're going to grow in. Now, in the winter, you just let this thing sit. Don't worry if it gets cold. If it gets really cold, the little microbes and everything in there will just go dormant and go to sleep. But generally, when you have a compost system set up like this, and this is like an 18-gallon tote, it stays warm, even under the snow. As everything's breaking down, it stays warm. See all that? Well, let me tell you a story on this, and I'll tell you a bigger story. At the time, I was using that for some bell peppers. I keep saying bell peppers because that's what it looks like. It's not bell peppers. They were little mini, kind of not too hot red peppers. And you're going to see later on in the next video what it turned out to look like. They were sitting there off to the side growing in a trash can. But this is just so great. Now, I don't know if you want to use cardboard. I did put cardboard in this one, and I keep it closed so nothing can get in it. But if you've got earwigs or a lot of roly-polies, they'll live in the cardboard. So keep that in mind. You can always put the cardboard in. If you don't like it, toss it out, put it in the garden, put it in the trash, whatever you want to do. She's always there with me when I go out on the deck to see what's going on. But here is what I wanted to share, because when I realized that my other video was coming out, I didn't show you what I had actually been documenting for myself. I had some pepper jack cheese that was sitting in the back of the fridge. I forgot about it. Kind of slid underneath, and it got too moldy to do anything with but compost. So here I'm going to bury it. Now, the reason I absolutely love these simple, cheap compost systems you can build is nothing can get in them. You've got a lid on it. You've got side holes. That's why you'll have to go back and watch your original video on how I made those holes. And the only thing that can get in there is your fruit flies. And you want them. They're working for you. Nature put them on earth for us. They're there for a purpose. And we want to use them. If you don't have earthworms to toss in there, and of course, if you can get some worms, that would be better yet. But if you don't, that's what nature put these little guys on there for, on this earth. Because they're going to go in there and they eat everything. So a block of cheese, perfect. Don't throw it out. I mean, it's moldy, but guess what? Do you know what that mold is? That's the start of the breakdown to take it back and bring it to the earth. Of course, it was in the refrigerator, so you're going to get a different type of mold. It's not going to hurt anything. Eventually, what's going to happen is that green mold will disappear because the microbes will get in there, or if you've got earthworms, and they'll devour it and do what they're supposed to do. Yeah, she can look all she wants, but she can't get inside the tote, and the bucket is something I had to cover later. Now, also, I had other things that I put in there during this time. And that's what I want you to know. You can put in a closed system like this anything you want. You've got a lid, so you're not going to have a rat or mice or possums or anything get in there. But we're going to take a peek at that cheese that I had put in there about a week or so earlier. And I saw it's almost gone. It's there. See, there it is. Now, could I have cut it up? Sure. I don't blend anything, by the way. Pouring in a bunch of muck is something I think the microbes don't really want. They want to get in there and all feast and live in there as they're munching it away. So keep that in mind. But if you want to blend it and you want to try it, that's up to you. Now, this is blended, but it's not done by me. For Thanksgiving, somebody was making a pumpkin something, and it kind of got left, that can they had left over, and they didn't use it. Well, I'm not going to use it because it was sitting out all day. So I decided to bury it. I mean, I'm not going to throw it away. Came out of a can. Don't worry if there's salt or if there's sugar or something in it, though I think that was raw pumpkin. It's not going to hurt anything. All that will still disappear. Just cover it up a little bit. Now, keep in mind, anything on the top will not compost, all right? As long as you remember that, then you'll start to understand composting. If you've got it on the top, it won't break down because your microbes don't live on the top. They live just under the soil. Helping, them out by covering it with cardboard, that could be a good thing. But the other thing you could do, which is even better, and I got lazy here, is just cover it with a little bit of soil. Any soil. Go out in your yard, if you know it's good soil. I don't mean good to grow in, just, nothing toxic in there. Dig a few shovels and throw it on the top. And that will do the breakdown. Because you do want whatever food matter you put in there, whether it's leaves or anything, covered with a little bit of soil. Now, if you're going to use it for composting, or I should say a mulch, don't worry about it. So it sits on top, but eventually it'll end up underneath. Now, as I work on the deck, I throw leaves in there, and I make sure when I'm done, I close the lid. Though we'll talk about leaving the lid open another time. Now, see the cardboard? If you notice, cardboard doesn't really break down that well. Even in my totes sometimes, I have found them. I'm not crazy about cardboard because if you use it out in your garden, you could end up with a lot of earwigs, but a lot of roly-polies and slugs living in cardboard. So keep that in mind. But look, the pumpkin and the cheese are pretty much gone about a week later. It's mushing down. Little fruit flies have come through the side holes here. They're making their larva, that it's getting in there and eating it, because the fruit flies aren't eating it. The fruit flies are coming in and laying eggs, and then they have like their teeny weeny, let's call it what it is, like little maggots, and then those little things that are working just like earthworms would work, though earthworms are better because they can dig more, but the little maggots get in there and eat everything away, and you end up with wonderful compost. And like earthworms, earthworm poo, well, you get the same thing from the maggots. Look at that. And then I just kind of keep it covered because keeping cardboard on top keeps it wet. Now, can you water it? Absolutely. Look at that. That's the little tiny cocoons that will turn into your little fruit flies that will either fly away. Well, they'll fly away and then they'll breed and then they'll come back and lay eggs. Eggshells take longer. Don't worry about it. It gives air space in soil. Remember, all these critters are oxygen breathing, so they need air, not water. Now, absolutely water your totes. Go through periodically and dump some water in there. It's going to drain out because we do have holes on the bottom. Because if it dries out, your little critters in there are not going to live. They need water and oxygen. They just don't want to be underwater, so don't make it a pond. But isn't this wonderful? This is like the greatest cheap system in no turning. Now look at the peppers here. We're going to get into this again soon. This is a plant that was growing on my windowsill. and I yanked it out because I have a whole bunch of peppers. I have a habit of pulling peppers out of the freezer that I like eating. They're sweet little red peppers, and dumping the seeds in a food container on my windowsill, and then they grow, and then I got to figure out where to plant them, and I never get to all of them. That's supposed to be a tiny pepper. You'll see the other video what it turned into, or what it's turning into. But I water that one plant that's sitting in a 1-gallon trash can with the water that's underneath in that bucket. And that is so rich that is a supercharged plant, which is unreal. And that's why it's great. Now you can water down the compost tea that's coming out so you can spread it to more of your plants that are growing. If you don't have anything growing right now, you don't have to save it, but you can always pour it back in. That's not going to really hurt anything. Or just pour it anywhere you want. I wouldn't save it, but there it is. And you can put some plants on top of the lid if you want to weigh it down. Let's say you think something might push it up. Get some big pots and put it on. Here's the one that I've got in my bird garden right now. I made the straps there so the hawks can't come down on them. And they feed on that lid all day. And all I have to do is collect some kitchen scraps or leaves from the garden, lift the lid up, and toss it in. So I hope I've given you ideas on how you can put together a compost bin out of a tote that's so cheap. And then this way, when gardening season comes, you've got your own compost. Just shovel out what you need. Or you can set up a few of them and you can plant directly in there. But remember, you could just rob it. Just take what you want from it, put it in other containers when you start growing your tomatoes, your squash, and everything, and you will be ready for gardening season, which will be here before we know it. With that, have a great day. And don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye.